Hey, it's Lane from LainTCG, and this week I'm here to talk about Medusamon and do an in-depth deck primer on a deck that I am enjoying quite a bit. And before anything, I had some amazing art done by Henry Magenta for this episode. I'm going to be working with him going forward on more art for episodes upcoming, so look forward to that. All right, let's get into it. So, Medusamon basically is a complex aggro deck. It's also called Dragonkin Aggro in the comic, and it's a deck that primarily functions by using multiple powerful effects during the attack step and reducing or refunding costs for Digivolution during the attack. There are a handful of strong Lizard and Dragonkin style Digimon, enough that you can play it somewhat differently depending on how you want to fashion the top end of your deck or the bottom end. Currently, there are three or so builds with the OTK push strategy seeming to be the strongest, but you do have options on your choices. So, the game plan. The overall game plan in Medusamon is using powerful effects that trigger when security is removed from your opponent's security stack to chain inherits and digivolve in the time that your Digimon is immune while attacking if you're in your boss monster. When removing security, and this is just so you know how timing works, security effects on options and tamers trigger before your abilities do. But if you run into a Digimon, your abilities, like your inherits and stuff, trigger before the combat happens. So using this window, you're able to do some shenanigans in the attacking step to keep your Digimon alive or retake your turn, depending on how you're running things. You want to kill your opponent as quickly as possible via security plus effects or by popping tokens that help along with your advantage, which I will explain as things go on. So, the engine, this is basically the most important piece in the deck for having things function properly. The deck's engine is structured around effects that happen when cards are removed from opponent's security stack, and the Gigimon Egg is one of the more powerful effects in this deck. So basically, your turn, once per turn, when your opponent's security stack is removed from, one of your Digimon may digivolve into a Reptile or Dragonkin trait card in hand with the cost reduced by 1. This doesn't matter if the Digimon that's on your board is a Reptile or Dragonkin, they just need to evolve into one. The text below is just clarifying timing again. So security effects resolve first um, instead of your ability. So if you hit a security effect and you don't have progress or something to protect, they may blow up your Digimon first. But if you go into a battle, you can resolve your abilities first, so you can digivolve into a stronger Digimon if you need to survive the combat. So you can see their Digimon is 5,000 and your rookie will die, so therefore you digivolve into something that is stronger than it. So on. It really helps with keeping your pieces on board as you're building up into a bigger stack if you're not just going for it all at once. And then we have Elizamon, which is the default searcher for this deck. Elizamon searches for almost every card in the deck aside from consistency options. So basically, for a cost of 3, on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 card with Reptile or Dragonkin trait, and 1 card with Liberator trait among them, and then return the rest to the bottom of the deck. This can grab most things you'll be using, including Omnimon X to clear out games. And also, the inherit works well in conjunction with the Gigimon egg, so when your opponent's security stack is removed from, once per turn on your turn, gain 1 memory with the same timing restrictions as previous. So basically, you swing into something, if it's a Digimon, gain the memory, and then you can trigger the Gigimon if you like. So, Dimetromon. Dimetromon is a standard tamer playing level 4 in the deck, helping you get out tamers needed to help with some of your game plan for a cost of 4 if you want to hard slam it, which is actually pretty helpful. Or for a Digivolution cost of 2, you may either play or Digivolve into it. When Digivolving, if you have 1 or fewer tamers, you may play 1 Owen Dreadnought from your hand without paying the cost. It also is the same inherit as Elizamon, giving you 1 memory back during your attack when a security stack is removed from, or when your opponent's security stack is removed from once per turn. So you can basically get 2 memory back and Digivolve for a reduction, which helps quite a bit with this deck, honestly. Then we have Lamiamon. There is a lot of text for this one because it does a lot of different things, and I want to explain progress. But also, Lamiamon is the least important part of the engine as it's currently printed. Because this deck mostly functions as an OTK deck, a card that sets up follow-up turns is less of a priority than other cards. The one thing that helps this card is the progress keyword, though. and I'm going to explain that now. So progress makes it so that while attacking, your opponent's effects don't affect this Digimon, like the Digimon that is attacking that has progress. That counts Digimon effects, options, and tamer effects that target your Digimon. While it's not permanent, it makes it so you can't be interrupted properly while swinging, other than by blocking or game rule style effects. This basically makes it a guaranteed Digivolve into a level 6 from your Gigimon egg, which is really nice and probably the best thing the card has going. It does have another effect that helps if you are running a Gaimon top end, though, which is your turn, once per turn. When any of your Reptile or Dragonkin trait Digimon's attack targets change, so if you have Raid or anything like that as well, trash your opponent's top security card, which is nice. It's kind of unfortunate that it's only on your turn, so it's not great with blocker, but you know. And also your inherit, which is all turns, once per turn, you play one Reptile or Dragonkin with 5k DP or less from your hand, which is basically any of your rookies and most all level 4s that I believe you can play in the deck. This tool primarily helps with blocker style strategies or to set up Digimon for next turn on your second security check with your boss. It's better for the kind of slower version of the deck that takes 2 turns, or if you have like a Gaimon style thing going on, it's helpful for that as well. And then Medusamon, who is your boss monster. So Medusamon is an incredibly powerful card. The only thing that holds her back is that she's 12k DP naturally. So she has security attack +1 and progress, which makes her an optimal attacker. If she has any kind of DP boost at all, she's not going to die to most security attacks. So when Digivolving and end of attack once per turn, you may delete one of your opponent's lowest DP Digimon, and there is a may, so you can choose to do it when Digivolving or end of attack. If you are Digivolving while attacking, you can choose to delay for, the end of your swing. But also, all turns once per turn, when any of your opponent's Digimon are deleted or their security stack is removed from, they play one Petrification token, which is a 3k DP Digimon that can't suspend, so they can't block or attack with it. And when it's deleted, it trashes the top security card of their stack. You can Digivolve into this from a level 5 with your egg, which will immediately let you get a second security attack and trigger the when Digivolving effect if you choose to, or you can wait until the end of your attack to clear the token and get rid of the security if that's more optimal. I should clarify, if you have security attack +1, let's say you Digivolve the Lamiamon mid-swing, the security attack +1 is a static effect, so you do get 2 checks if you Digivolve into it. It checks that after the first check is completed. So you will get to go through 2 security instead of just 1 with this. And then at the end of the attack, if it's still sticking around, you can then pop the Petrification token off of the second one when the security is removed from. Also, we have Owen. I'm going to go over both of them now. Only one really is necessary for the engine. The setter's good to help clear rookies and floodgates when a security is removed all turns, but it's not the most important. It just pops something, I believe, 4k or lower. But Owen Dreadnought BT21 is the standard start of main memory effect, but the more important part is the secondary effect for this deck in particular. So, end of your turn, by suspending this tamer, one of your Digimon with Reptile or Dragonkin trait, which is going to be most of your Digimon, gains piercing for the turn, and then that Digimon attacks. So you can specifically Digivolve into something, push it over to your opponent's side of the board, and then swing, and then gain the memory back off of your level 3 and level 4, and potentially keep turn. This allows you to Digivolve and then, keep turn or do shenanigans with Medusamon and those sorts of effects. It helps quite a bit, and you will want to run 4 of him in basically any version of this deck. The other one is mostly a personal preference. There are other setters that are slightly better that I'll talk about later, but yeah. And then we're going to get into key pieces. So this is going to be things that support the deck and your archetype. The new one is this Agumon rookie. It helps by recurring your pieces and can be played off of Lamiamon's Inherit if you are running that version of the deck. For a play cost of 3, on play you may return 1 Digimon card with Reptile or Dragonkin trait from your trash to your hand. Which helps with cycling things back into play if you need to. But also, it's one of the more optimal breeding area plays because it gives a plus 2k DP inherit that on your turn makes your boss monster harder to kill, so she's more likely to survive her swings. And then Cyclonemon, which basically does a fairly similar thing. It can be played off of your Lamiamon inherit if you choose to go that way with the deck, because it's 5k DP. It has a play cost of 5, or you can Digivolve into it for 2, but it has a security effect that at the end of the battle, play this card without paying the cost. And then it has an on-play when Digivolving, so if you play it out of your security, you get the effect. Delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 4k DP or less. This is useful to get rid of Floodgates, though the only one that really affects you is Memory Floodgates. It's also fairly useful for the generic your turn plus 2k DP to keep your Medusamon alive, which is the primary reason to run it. So, Paildramon. Paildramon is not printed for this deck, but is probably the most useful level 5 for the deck, as it has the Dragonkin trait. We are going to fully ignore its all turns effect, because we are not running Imperialmon Dragon Mode. But on play, when Digivolving, you can Digivolve into it for 4, but on play, when Digivolving, for the turn, one of your Digimon gains Piercing and gains plus 4k DP. You can target yourself with it, so Paildramon can target itself. And then this Digimon may attack, so it may do the swing even if you don't have no one on board if you push it over for, 4. The all turns effect doesn't matter, but it also has a security attack plus 1 inherit, and that's kind of huge for the deck. By Digivolving into Medusamon during your swing, you can effectively clear 4 security in one swing if you wait to pop the Petrification token until after your attack. And because it'll be plus 4 on that swing, like using Gigimon mid-attack, it's going to be 16 when your Medusamon goes into security, so you will almost always get through everything with 16. And then Cyberdramon, which is the other level 5, probably the one you'll be running instead of Lamiamon. It's another strong piece for the deck, helping you trigger your effects off of security being removed. So you can play it for 7, or you can Digivolve for 3 onto it, but it has an on-play when Digivolving. If your opponent has 5 or fewer security cards, they place 1 card from their hand as the bottom security card, and then they trash the top of their security. While it's not ideal to let them set something up in their security, in this deck, the only thing that affects your swinging stacks easily is large DP, so if you know to expect that there's going to be a large DP thing on the bottom, it's less shocking, because their, like, bomb options do not affect Medusamon while she's swinging. The inherit also greatly helps the deck by giving plus 4k on your turn, so it'll make Medusamon base 16k when swinging, which is kind of huge, honestly. And then Omnimon X. Omnimon X is the closer for the game a good bit of the time, as it seems to be in any deck that runs red or blue lately. For a Digivolution cost of 6, which doesn't really matter if you win the game with it. On play, when Digivolving, if Omnimon or X Antibody is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, choose one of both players' Digimon and then delete all others. You're not really going to be running X Antibody, though you can. It's an option. But then, even if you don't get that previous effect, return one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of the deck, so you'll get rid of something that they can ace on top of. And then end of turn, once per turn, one of your Digimon may gain Rush for the turn and attack without suspending. Effectively, you can bottom deck your opponent's Digimon that can ace and then get a final swing in. You can also swing with Raid and Piercing if you just want to clear out their last piece if they, only have one thing on the board to guarantee a win the next turn. Other pieces to consider. So this is going to be things that you'll just want to look at as like other supporting cards. This is the new WarGreymon from BT21. It's a great pick to be able to slam down an attacker while you're against your opponent if they have an extremely wide board. Though also, if your opponent has no way to interact and they have no security, you can just pay the 11 to win the game because it has Rush. So for 11, or Digivolving for 3, you can get an 11k DP attacker with Rush, Raid, and Blocker, which is a bunch of very good keywords for this deck. But when this card would be played, reduce the play cost by 2 for each of your opponent's Digimon, so you can get it extremely cheap or free, depending on the deck that you're going against. But also all turns, once per turn, when any of your opponent's Digimon are deleted, this Digimon may unsuspend, so you can attack or block twice in a turn and get a sneaky endgame win with Rush. Unfortunately, it doesn't have very much DP, so it's kind of weak in that regard. But then We also have another WarGreymon, which is the warp one from previous. So while you have a Tai Kamiya tamer and your opponent has a Digimon of 10k DP or more, one of your Agumon for a cost of 4 can Digivolve into it, ignoring the requirements. I will bring up the Tai that you may want to run in this deck. I run it in the deck because it's just kind of better than the Owen setter, but for 4, you can also Digivolve into it from a level 5. When Digivolving, this Digimon gains Raid for the turn, then may attack. So even if you push it over to your opponent's side of the board, even if you don't have an Owen, you can attack. And then when attacking, if you have a Tamer, this Digimon gains Security Attack +1 and Piercing for the turn. At 12k, it's not huge, but it has almost everything that Medusamon has for the deck without Petrification tokens, and the Warp can be very surprising now that WarGreymon isn't that present in the meta. Other pieces to consider. ST1 Greymon. This card is as old as the game, and while it's not searchable by anything in the deck, it can get you enough security checks to get rid of everything in one turn. So it gives security attack +1 inherit, and along with Paildramon and Medusamon, you can clear 4 security, and then by popping a petrification token, you can clear all of their security in one turn, and then Omnimon for game, if you have enough memory to do so. It's great. It's kind of an include just for that. You don't necessarily need to include it, but it is definitely something to think about. And then Grumblemon. Grumblemon is honestly sneakily one of the better cards in the deck. Hybrid for game is always fairly unexpected, and it digivolves for 2 on top of Owen, which is guaranteed if you have any tamers on the board at all, because you will always have 2 memory to start. But also, on play, when digivolving, it deletes one of your opponent's Digimon with 3k DP or less, which clears petrification tokens. So by digivolving into him, get rid of your opponent's security if you had a Medusamon on board at any point. Also, its inherit is pretty good, doing the same thing when attacking once per turn, clearing something with 3k DP or less. And while you can't digivolve into it with the egg, you can digivolve on top of it with the egg to go into any of your level 5s, because it doesn't care about what trait the card is on board, just what it's digivolving into. And then the Tai Kamiya setter. This is, again, another one of the oldest cards in the game, but it's honestly an ideal memory setter for the deck, aside from the name. If it was named Owen Dreadnought, this would be the perfect card for the deck. Basically, if you have 2 or less memory, set to 3. Basic setter effect. But it also gives all of your red Digimon with 4 more Digivolution cards security attack +1. It enables WarGreymon Warp if you run that as a secondary top end, and it gives your Medusamon an extra check into security, which can make it so you clear everything given the correct stack. All you need is 1 Greymon inherit in it or 1 Paildramon inherit in it, and you can clear everything in 1 turn. And also Dorbickmon. This card has been popular on and off for a very long time, and this is an alternate finisher to consider with the deck instead of Omnimon X if you don't have Omnimon X. If you clear all security using Digicross to reduce it as much as possible, you can play it on board and go for game with Owen's effect, and then basically it has a play cost of 13 or as little as 3 by reducing 2 for each different named card with Dragonkin, basically. It has Rush, and on play, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 3k DP or less, and then for each card with Dragon in one of its traits, in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, add 2k to the deletion maximum, so it can hit up to 13k. It's not likely going to hit that because you would need 5 different names, but it can likely clear a level 5 ace target with no protection, which is enough to win a lot of games, honestly. And then we are getting into the options. Raging Serpentine is one of the best cards in the deck. Raging Serpentine can set up plays extremely well, and it's one of the best targeted deletions in the whole game. For 8 or for 4 if your opponent has 3 or fewer security cards, which, helps you if you already have any kind of advantage in the game. Main, delete one of your opponent's highest DP Digimon, and then place this in the battle area. And then the delay effect is all turns when your opponent's security stack is removed from delay, one of your Reptile or Dragonkin trait Digimon may digivolve into 1 such trait card in hand without paying the cost. So basically, you can use Gigi to digivolve into Pale for 3 instead of 4, and then you can immediately go from Pale into Medusa just straight, off of 1 chain, which is kind of nuts. You basically get rid of your opponent's strongest Digimon and set up a chain Evo off of GG and the delay effect to go into your top end next turn. And its security effect is also just really good by deleting one of your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP, which is always a very nice effect. Utility options, as always, training, scrambles, and memory boost. As always, you want to run utility options in the deck. Each option's good in the deck for various different reasons, so it's best to test ratios when playtesting to go with what you'd like to prioritize. Scramble helps you digivolve into your level 6 for a cost of 3 instead of 4, but training helps similarly. It all comes down to personal preference. With these, I run less memory boosts than I do trainings. Training I prioritize more than scrambles and boosts personally, but you can do what you like. It's up to you on that. And then we're going to talk about Reptile Dragonkin options if you're running the deck with Lamiamon. So you have a handful of decent Reptile and Dragonkin options that you can play in the deck that can be played off of the Lamiamon. Gaussmon and Guilmon are my personal favorites for the third rookie spot because Guilmon can help you close out games that have gone long with the rush. If you just get rid of all of your opponent's stuff, play the Guilmon for free off of the Lamiamon, or just 3 from hand and then use Owen to clear game because it'll have rush. Or Gaussmon is a floodgate with an ever-present effect because your opponent can't reduce Digivolution costs is a thing that is fairly good. And it hurts every deck aside from Royal Knights. Or in the level 4 slot, you can run Paildramon, the promo one, because when an attack target switches, you can get rid of the top of their security, which, you know, triggers all of your inherits and also Raging Serpentine before your opponent's ace window. But it's fairly expensive to buy, so if you don't want to run that. There's also Cyclonemon, which doesn't have anything that happens when you play it, but has a when attacking, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 2k DP or less. You know, that's nice. It's just kind of a third name if you want something that's like in trait type instead of the, you know, Greymon instead. But yeah, this is a sample deck list, which has 4 Agumon, 4 Elizamon, 2 Gaussmon, 2 Cyclonemon BT21, 4 Dimetromon, 2 Greymon ST1, 2 Grumblemon, 3 Cyberdramon, 4 Paildramon BT20, 4 Medusamon, 2 WarGreymon BT14, the Warp one, 2 Omnimon X, 3 Offense Training, 2 Raging Serpentine, 2 Red Memory Boost, 2 Scrambles, and then 4 of the BT21 Owen Dreadnought, and 2 of the Security +1 Setter Tai Kamiya, and 4 eggs. You don't want to run any eggs other than the Gigimon because you really need the consistency off of the Gigimon inherit. Basically, I'm going to talk about the ways to build in the game plans for a second before we end the video. The premier game plan right now is to try and OTK your opponent by building up a stack with as many security checks as possible and immunity to opponent's effects via your progress keyword on Medusamon. The ideal stack includes either Greymon or Paildramon, or both if you're trying to get rid of everything in one, and potentially a Tai on board so you can, you know, have one or the other. To clear everything in one go, and then Omnimon for game by bottom decking any threatening card and swinging on end step. The other plan is to use Lamiamon and your DP inherits to give more consistency and set up a second turn via your inheritable. It basically is just like clear 3 and then use either Raging Serpentine or whatever and have another card out to help you end the game next turn. Both are fairly solid game plans, though the OTK generally seems to be more powerful at the moment. There's still optimization to be made on both, and as we get more cards, things are going to become better or worse. The deck mostly struggles with lingering effects like DP minus effects that last the whole turn, or decks with a ton of massive DP bodies and security like Royal Knights, but again, it's going to become more consistent as time goes on. This is the kind of deck that you want to play if you enjoyed something like WarGreymon like aggro previously, not so much the toolbox, but like the red version that just beat your opponent to death. It's the kind of thing that has more complicated interactions, but is also just an aggro deck that you can have fun with. And if that's your kind of thing, then honestly, you should probably try the deck out. It'll probably be for you. But yeah, that's about it. Please like and subscribe. Share this with your community or friends who are looking to get into the competitive scene or would like to learn the Medusamon deck. I'm going to go through credits on things. My Twitter and Twitch is LainTCG. The icon and the art for this episode, including the art of my VTuber character next to me right now and Owen's outfit is by Henry Magenta on Twitter and ArtStation. My original model is by Be a Big Shot. My chibi model, which is the one in this video, is by Feral on Twitter and Twitch. My cursor model is by VeniVidiVT at VeniVidi_VT. And my banner is by Yo-Yoms on Twitter, and my logo is by Pinky Bird on Twitter and VGen. Hope this is helpful. Hope you guys are having a nice BT21, and have a nice day. Good luck at your locals. See you next time.